you know, as you guys are sort of bunkering down and trying to make sure you guys are okay, I'm sure when you finally got out and maybe started to realize what actually had happened, how did you feel? Just sort of, what did you learn sort of as you came out of that bunkering sort of situation?
It was all pretty much a blur, but I remember there's about 5 officers, pretty heavily armed. They were talking stern but calm and firm. They were saying, "Hey, this is FC Police. Put your hands up." They all patted us down, and then we basically walked single file out of the Union, where we met in this big area where we kind of just got questioned, saying, "Hey, if you've finished some information, let's talk." And I saw the gunman. He was already arrested, but he was in handcuffs on the ground, and I saw a lady being tended to medically.
Sam, really appreciate you sharing that. I want to bring in Mr. Shad as well with us. Because Will, we were in the library. When did you notice that something was actually wrong?
Yes, much like Sam, we were actually working on a group project as well. And the first giveaway to me is, I mean, I heard commotion before, but it didn't really register until I saw a bunch of people running to the exit. And while some stayed behind to like shelter, I ran outside the building as well, ran down a few blocks until I saw a ton of first responders just getting there almost immediately, it seemed like. And once I was around them, they actually didn't question me. I guess that wasn't like their target like location or something, but I was like safe with them. And at that point, when I was outside of the library, I heard about 78 gunshots, and yeah.
So you're outside the library, and you see there's already a commotion going on, so that prompts you to go outside, and then you hear more gunshots. Yeah. What did you think was happening at that moment?
At that moment, from what I could tell, I thought the shooter was in the library, and I mean, as it turns out, he was actually outside of the student union. So inadvertently, I was probably putting myself in more harm's way, but yeah, I thought the shooter was in the library, so my instinct was just to run out and just run as far as I could.
And as I understand, too, the first person you called after you were safe was your mom. And look, I mean, you don't have to go far in this country to find parents who have been worried about their kids on campus or at school when they hear about a shooting or something like that. What was it like to talk to her? Just tell me about that conversation.
I could just hear, I don't remember exactly what she said, but I could hear the sense of dread in her words, how nervous she was. She had been thought for a long time how frequent it is nowadays in this country that it might happen one day somewhere near me, and her worst nightmare came true, and she was just panicking, but I was assuring her I was okay, the first responders were there, and it seemed like the situation was going to be under control.
Yeah. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's a long day there. Just really appreciate it. So, I want to bring another guest who's here as well, who's on campus during the shooting, Reed Siegel. Because Reed, as we just mentioned, some of the other students as well, it sounds like you were also working with fellow students in the building near the student meeting where the shooting happened. Can you just tell me kind of when you realized that it was actually a shooting that was happening and what happened next?
For sure, Omar. So we were, like you said, we were working on a group project in our classroom, and then two students ran in yelling about a shooting. So we immediately talked to the next student, turned off the lights, locked the doors, they were to their death. And for about the hours that we were barricaded, we heard gunshots, and then 3 distinct times I remember that we were trying to open our door. The second few times I know it could be the police, but the first time everyone thought it was the shooter. Now that we know he was shot outside the community, we know it wasn't him, but we were in there, hugging those next to us, some level of comfort, whether we knew them or not. I was texting those I love, and similarly to what you would have seen with the videos from 9/11. Hey, I love you. I may never see you again. I might be dying.
And, So as we just heard from the other statement too, meanwhile parents are probably seeing this on the news, they're seeing stuff come out, they're trying to reach folks like you. It sounds like you're texting them as well. I can't imagine, and obviously thankful you're okay. I want to ask you about something else, because as I understand, you were in an extracurricular group with the suspected gunman a few years ago, and that you may have been kicked out of that group. Can you just give us some insight? Why exactly was he maybe kicked out here?
For sure. So, a little background. This was a political talk group, current events of the day. And he had continually made enough people uncomfortable where, certain people had stopped coming. And that's kind of when we reached the breaking point with Phoenix, and we had asked him to leave.
And what exactly, if you can remember, what exactly was he saying that made people uncomfortable, as you say?
It's been a couple years now. I
Sure.
can't give exact quotes, but whether it was in that club or in class, he talked about the ravages of multiculturalism and communism and how it's ruining America.
And I should mention, we have not been able to independently confirm the claims about the beliefs he espoused, but that's why we're talking to some folks like you who may have known him longer than we have, certainly. Another student who's in the group, I should mention too, said the suspect wasn't radical but tended to make more conservative positions and views, adding, quote, he was pretty normal, he was pretty nice. How do you respond to that? Could that fit into sort of your experience with him as well?
So, it honestly sounds like the student is describing me, normal and conservative, but I wholeheartedly disagree. That, he wasn't. He went beyond conservatism. So I disagree.
All right. And obviously, law enforcement is still looking into very specific motives on this. It's just the beginning of an investigation. But I really appreciate you sharing your views on this statement.
Not a long day.
All right. Meanwhile, President Trump is weighing in on the issue of calling it a shame. He also says with me now, longtime gun control advocate and former Florida Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Rosell-Howell. Really appreciate you being here. Look, Congressman, you lost your father. No gun personally. That's a matter of with that experience. How do you respond to President Trump calling this mass shooting a shame and saying guns don't kill people, people do?
Yeah, good evening, Omar. And I just want to start by saying that my heart is with the families in Tallahassee who have lost their loved ones and all the other victims. But what's truly shameful here is that this is happening under President Trump's watch. One of the first things that he did was eliminate the Office of Gun Prevention, Gun Violence Prevention. Investments in community violence prevention programs, support for law enforcement. I mean, this is a national crisis. We not only have a crisis in moral failures in this country, where we are idolizing guns more than protecting the lives of our children, we have a leadership crisis. And he's speaking about the Second Amendment. No one is going to be violating the Second Amendment. People here respect the right to own a gun, but we also understand that when we pass common sense gun safety laws, we prevent many of these shootings from happening. What is truly shameful also, Omar, if I can continue here, is that in Tallahassee just a few weeks ago, the House, the extreme Republican House in Tallahassee, it passed a law, repealed a law to lower the age limits that we had actually been able to pass after the Parkland shooting, to lower the age limit from 21 to 18 so that younger kids have access to these weapons. And that's what's truly shameful.
And, And I hear you on the push to obviously to take a look at laws around firearms. And one of the questions in this is that Florida law already does ban guns on college campuses, and gun storage laws only apply to homes with minors 16 and younger. And look, every situation is obviously different, but is there anything here legally or policy-wise that could have stopped this shooting that you see?
Some of you will do crowd
Well,
control. The
look,
vault
we
team
never
will
know
go
for
downstairs,
sure that if
blow
we
the
pass
first vault
one
door
law,
with the
like
thermal
universal
charges, then
background
use the
checks
card to
or
get into the
red
network
light
and
laws,
open
that
the
it's going
second
to
vault
prevent
door.
every single
And
incident.
look
We
out,
know that. But
because
we
you'll have
do
about
know
2
that when
minutes
we do
before
pass
every
common
cop in
sense
town is
safety
waiting
laws,
for you
we see a
outside the bank.
reduction in gun
So
violence.
you move
And I can tell you
fast.
that
You get
safe
on the
storage
bikes, you
laws are
split,
not enacted
and we
here in
meet at the
Florida.
rendezvous
It could have
point,
helped
okay?
if those
Good luck,
weapons were
people.
locked
Nothing can go wrong.
so that this
Oh,
20-year-old young man didn't
I'm
have
all
access
good.
to those weapons. I can assure you that it's much harder when you have those safety storage laws in place. We tried to do that at the federal level when I was in Congress, and again, Republicans refused to do that. I had conversations with Florida lawmakers from the other side of the aisle, trying to get some sense into them that this is not about ideology. This is about safety. Republicans, Democrats, and independents all agree. We want more safety, public safety for our children. Our students at FSU should not have been worrying about a shooting today. They should be preparing for exams. And the pain and the trauma remains years afterwards. If I've listened to anything, is that also that pain never goes away, but it does turn into resolve into fighting this senseless gun violence that we're living here in America.
And we even heard from some of the students that we just spoke to that one, training from high school kicked in over what to do if there's a mass shooting. Another spoke about how his family worried if at one point this might happen close to them. There's no question there's a lot of violence in this country. Former Congresswoman Debbie Purcell, Powell, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Omar.
All right. Also breaking tonight, Senator Chris Van Hollen says he met with Gilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador after being stopped by soldiers attempting to get to the high security prison he was in for a midday attack. That's next, along with the scathing ruling against the Trump administration regarding Abrego Garcia. And ahead, Fed President's beef with the Fed chair boils over, Charlie has a little bit of this here, saying Jerome Powell's termination can't come from.
Demolitions, hacker, your first job's to salute the guards. Again, try and do it without killing them. And when that's done, go downstairs and hit the vault. I've given you special carbines with suppressors. Use them wisely. Like I said, this is a big deal, people. Don't fuck it up.
This is the animals of the island. For ceramics, you have a limited colors. First, some of them are really traditional colors, 4, 5, maximum 6 colors. And recently, there are some modern pigments you can use many colors. I always wanted to be an artist since I was a little boy. I start from traditional techniques and everything. But I use ABC, I use contemporary haiku and done. I want people, when they look at my work, I want them somehow to smile, enjoy it.
Same thing, you get this 5-piece steak with that, that's $60 value. It's absolutely free. Look at that pan that always sticks with such practical wood, you can't cover it.
Hands from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic hanging in my kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love them.
Hammered pans are ultra non-stick. Nothing sticks. Even gooey mac and cheese slips out with ease. And look, these sticky candies melted with a torch are no match for hammered pans. Plus, they're super durable, so use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips out and a pan that looks just like new. They're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie, cheesy lasagna, or this whole chicken dinner. Any recipe looks great in these pans, from steak flambe to delicious desserts and
stick, nothing sticks. Plus the entire set is what will save them. The FLA fridge.
Similar sets are over $1,000, but you'll pay that. Not 500 or even 300.
Ooh.
A full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop one payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99, and we'll even guarantee it for a full 10 years. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. Together, these are an $80 value. Yours 100% free. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
To order, call 1-800-807-6648 or go to buyhammered.com. That's 1-800-807-6648, or you can order online at buyhammered.com.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Luma.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you can save.
Shipping 10,000 packages a month can feel chaotic.
There's ShipStation.
ShipStation lets you receive orders and process shipments all in one place. Your team can ship more orders faster by automating tasks. With ShipStation, your team is happy. And so
Start your free trial today at ShipStation.com.
I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta in New York, and this is CNN.
All right, breaking tonight, Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen revealing on social media he finally met with his wrongfully deported constituent, Vilmar Alberto Garcia, in El Salvador. Writing on X, I said my main goal of this trip was to meet with Vilmar tonight. I had that chance. I have called his wife, Jennifer, to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update on my return. Reporters are Tom Homan making clear earlier he deserves to be deported. The U.S. will not be under the Garcia final destination.
Even if we say yes, we can put this on the release and go back to no, he told me to leave. He told me to leave as part of what you're doing. You just go El Salvador and the country.
All right, I want to talk about here with me now the founder of the Grand Blog, sports senior advisor to the Trump campaign, Brian Lanza, and CNN political commentator Karen Finney. Good to see all of you. Karen, and let's start with you because, Senator Van Hollen's in-person pressure campaign or efforts appear to have worked in one way or another. Able to meet with Alberto Garcia, but also they use some of the quotes to say, look, Alberto Garcia is being treated so well. But we'll find out. Sure, we'll find out. But I guess my question to you is, at the end of this, it doesn't seem like Alberto Garcia is getting closer to the U.S. with the vetting process. So I wonder, do you see this as a win? How do you...
So there's two pieces to this, right? The specifics of this case, we learned something really important. El Salvador knows how to get somebody out of their own prison. And then turn them over to Americans and then had facilitate them coming back to the United States. Remember earlier this week, they had the President El Salvador with President Trump. They were like, I don't know, right? And so, I'm being a little bit facetious, but hopefully so they certainly know how to find him, and they're able to facilitate So there's the specifics of this case, and then there is what this represents in the context of our Constitution and the rule of law. And one of the things I think that's been interesting is we've been hearing reports from different Republicans who have been doing town halls. It's the same narrative saying, what's going on with this guy who's wrongfully deported? So it's blatantly true that people understand the President of the United States is supposed to follow the rule of law. And now we see the courts are taking this on much, we're going to go back to the courts on this issue of who was it who disobeyed the order to turn one plane around? And who was it who, and why can't we get Mr. Garcia back? And I think it's just on principle. And politically, I think it's important. And it's part of what the senator's trip was important for Washington to say, look, we have to follow the law, we have to follow due process, and we also can ensure that this individual is okay.
Brian, you're thinking like that. What? We didn't follow the law to get them. He's an illegal alien. Not a maryland man. He's an illegal alien. He's up his girlfriend. And if that's the bill that the senator wants to follow, then yeah, I want to take the amplified everyone. The senator prioritizing an illegal alien who smacks around his girlfriend and says, this is worthy of my time. This is worthy of time. This is worthy of from the police department.
I read the wife just put out a statement saying that this was her, that she loved her husband, and also that the protective order was filed as an order of precaution, that it didn't rise that degree. So I'm just putting her account into this as well.
And those only wives who haven't had filed for a
well, especially in illegal alien. Well,
and just the fact that this is an illegal alien, we want to be in this. From our standpoint, men are from women, men are from Venus and women are from Mars. We want the image of this senator that's so much of this time on the illegal alien and ignore it.
Anyways, I want to go back to the fact because I care about the lawyer and
clearly doesn't. The illegal alien who goes on like
so Judge Wilson, and if you know Judge Wilson, it's incredibly respectful, but he's so that it's true. Reagan short list of the Supreme Court rules. Here is what he said together, and everyone needs to hear. And if I can, I'll be a few quotes. Go for it. The government asserted the right to statutory residents of this country from going to prison without the semblance of due process. It is the foundation of our constitutional order. That stopping not only the judges, but the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans follow with support still hold dear. He goes on. He talks about the threat to our the rule of law, the foundations of our Constitution, if this kind of behavior can go on. And he was talking about a conservative judge. And he essentially adds to that promise of prayer that the executive branch does the right thing and follows the law. And I don't understand why this is not a peaceful thing. It is a request that the president and the executive branch follow the law.
And with all of this, look, we have seen attacks on, individual things that have been us the predators, getting under, but the circuit court here, the appeals court, asserted very clearly that the government asserts that they were going to disturb the member of MSP. Perhaps that's not. You're still entitled to due process. So I guess the question here, from a political standpoint, it's clear the White House has a strategy. And I guess from a Democratic standpoint, is this something that Republicans can capitalize on by portraying someone like Senator Van Hollen as, oh, look, you went down and met with someone who is a judge?
Well, articulated talking points. And that's right. Those are also your talking points. We've heard all these, frankly, from Republicans. But the facts are also that the President of the United States, someone who's clouded the court throughout his career, certainly we've seen this in the last couple of years, he also has to follow the law. He also has to ensure due process. And so we are going to see this clash between the executive branch and the judicial branch. And one of the things we see time and time again in just happened during the Iraq War. Again, Americans would say that we want our president to follow the law. So for Democrats, I think what's important is to stick to the values and what this case is about. We're going to be a nation that follows the Constitution. About that. Let's not pretend that there's one set of laws for one group of people and another set of laws for a different group of people.
And, right, what is the strategy? Right? The strategy politically, it clearly is not.
We talk about illegal immigration. This is an issue that's one that is precedent.
It's only come out in the last 72 hours that 50% of the country agree with the position on how he's going to make deportation. You know, 10 years ago, you only had 38% of the country who wanted deportations. Now you have the vast majority. So clearly, his message is working. He's convincing the American people that illegal immigration is a problem, that it has an effect on jobs, that has an effect on crime, that has an effect on housing, that has an effect on community. And the voters over the years have grown more popular to his position. And he's going to continue executing. And those images, maybe it is a different image, a different appeal, but we very much want to have United States senators traveling to foreign countries fighting for illegal aliens, while other senators in the red states are defending victims of illegal aliens. That's a conversation we will win every day, and the fact that the Democrats want to do it every day, to me, is confusing, but you'll let them do it.
And Rebecca, just before we go, I know you want to get it.
I'm really shocked as a citizen of this country. I agree with Judge Well. I don't always agree with him. He's a very conservative judge. But I'll quote again. If these actions are allowed to stand, if the government's current conduct is allowed to stand, it would reduce the rule of law to lawlessness and tarnish the very values that Americans of diverse views and persuasions have always stood for. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a threat to the people's fundamental rights in the Constitution. And of course, our congressmen and senators try and do the right thing, as the executive branch should be doing as well. Should be complying with the Supreme Court order. You got to stop.
And that ruling did not hold back, and we don't always see judges sort of acknowledge the outside sort of pressures and worlds outside of the court itself. And I just want to say, there you go, President Taylor,
chess. Quote tweeted Dan Scavino with chess piece. I so stay tuned. Yeah. Appreciate that. Thanks. All right, coming up next, the very public fight President Trump is now waging with the chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. The president says he wants Powell gone. Powell. Trade says not so fast. What the market found, and critically, what it could do to the economy. And ahead, Luigi Mangione officially indicted on federal charges tonight. We'll talk about it.
Join me, Larry Madowo, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talents, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers.
Meet two film titans, John Carney and Gaudian Hooker, as they redefine African storytelling on and off the screen.
When you fuse anything with culture, it brings those similarities.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
Quiet weirdos, turns out.
Inside Africa. See a continent in transformation as trailblazers evolve culture, technology, and industry across Africa and beyond. In Cape Town, witness the energy and innovation flowing through South Africa's cultural capital.
You find inspiration by looking at the mountain, going to the beach. So like the inspiration is endless.
Inside Africa on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
What does it mean to be out front? It's going there. We are about 3 miles from the Gaza border. It's finding out something unexpected. I relish all of our conversations. It's context. The economy is by far the top issue for Americans in this election. Curiosity. Someone else need to jump in the race. And above all, it's about sharing that so you can be out front too. Let's go out front.
Aaron Burnett out front. Weeknights on CNN.
What are you saying?
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment, and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
How do you feel being in here with these badly wounded soldiers? I was just being criticized for how I look.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers.
What do you want people to know about mortality?
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes. The series. It's boring to say, but it's about love. It's anything worth living for.
Alan Paul, weekdays on CNN.
It's a European marketplace that's constantly evolving.
We're all in this together.
From the energy sector, wow, look at
Big cells.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Really cool fantastic. The technology. This is the next generation of computing. Wow. And the latest in luxury.
What we're doing is well fast.
Are you all drawn to the classic? I'm a classic girl. I'm Anna Stewart and I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
Saturday on CNN.
I'm Mike Valerio in Seoul, South Korea, and this is CNN.
This isn't just a box of Plan B. It's a backup plan I can count on wherever I live. One I can buy online and pick up in store, or get delivered same day. This isn't just a box of Plan B. It's proof that I've got this. You know, say, visit too much of one in their worst. This is people women's basketball. I've always hated losing more than I love.
Take me out.
For World Sports, I'm Amanda Davis, and this is CNN.
Welcome back. Another chapter in Trump's long-standing feud with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Trump's been saying on social media Powell's termination cannot come soon enough. And in the Oval Office, he went further.
I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Now, Powell has noted that removing a Fed chair is not permitted under the law, but that comes from the Fed's status as an independent government institution. It hasn't stopped Trump, though, from encroaching on that dynamic. And his latest comments come on the heels of Powell saying this about Trump's tariff policy.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects.
Now, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump has been privately discussing firing Powell for months, but some advisors, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, have warned him against the move. Joining me now is Ross Gerber. He's the president and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management. Thank you for being here. Look, I think it's fair to say Trump's been challenging checks on his executive power. He's fired the FBI director in the past. He's fired federal workers from independent agencies. That case is the Supreme Court is still weighing right now. But do you think Trump will make the step to fire Powell? And if so, just what are the ramifications of that you may be watching?
Well, there's several scenarios that can play out now as tariffs are rapidly increasing prices that are now just about to begin to start hitting consumers on top of the effect on small businesses, which is fairly dramatic. So in one sense, Trump is right. And, well, yes, now we went to looking at a recession. So technically, Powell should be lowering rates. The problem is that he's doing this through tariffs where, it's causing inflation, and the Fed's mandate is also not to have inflation. So actually, current Fed policy is correct for where we are in the markets, but Trump wants Powell to save him from bad policy by lowering rates. And Powell's just not going to do that.
And traditionally, as it should be by law at this point, the Federal Reserve, independent of the executive office, in this case, President Trump. We know from reports that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is urging Trump against firing Powell. And he said in an interview that it's because monetary policy is a jewel box that's got to be preserved. if the independence of the Federal Reserve is compromised, how does that impact the markets in the economy, that jewel box, so to speak?
Well, I don't look at it as much as a jewel box, but I think that we have, a long history of what we call an independent fund. Remember, it's appointed by, the president and Congress at the time. And so there is some politics involved with this. There's usually some coordination between the administration and the Fed as far as policy, so that policies make sense. And this is what's the problem, is there isn't coordination between Trump and Powell, so their policies, contradict each other, and hence where the conflict arises. And so I think the bigger issue is, even if you fire Powell, it doesn't change the effect of, if you just lower interest rates 100 basis points, does it solve the higher cost of living? No, it won't. And then you get a different set of distortion, and you lose a certain level of confidence. So right now, there is very little confidence in the markets in Trump, and that's why the value of all American assets has dropped by at least 10% since Trump has taken office, and could drop substantially more if these bad policies continue. So a more bad policy by forcing lower rates actually causes even more inflation. And so it's not as simple as just firing Powell, and then you lose confidence in the system, which then puts more pressure on markets. So Besson is right that we don't want to destabilize confidence in the Trump administration any further, because the effects could be very destabilizing for markets. So Trump is playing a very dangerous game, and he's not a very smart man.
And confidence in the economy may have been what affected the bond market moves that clearly, as we understand from reporting, spooked some people enough to where it influenced President Trump to make some adjustments on tariffs. Ross Gerber, I got to leave it there, but I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for your time and insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, federal charges officially levied
And now this.
over United Healthcare's CEO, and the Trump White House vowing to pursue the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Stay with us.
And now this.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere to fix that? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast, so strong, and so convenient. It's like putting the power of an air compressor.
I keep walking down, so I'm trying to see my legs. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
I keep walking down, so I'm trying to see my legs. Okay, thank you.
The palm of your hand.
Girl, now I want to go on a cruise.
You can inflate all 4 tires of your car on a single charge, or inflate a bag full of soccer balls at practice. Bullseye Pro is so advanced, it has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Plus, it can be 100% hands-free. You simply set the target pressure and walk away, keeping you out of harm's way. Bullseye Pro is lightweight, durable, and powerful enough to inflate this massive monster truck tire. Plus, it has 4 ultra-bright LED lights to safely inflate at night. Bullseye Pro comes with 3 custom air nozzles on board, so you can easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Forget driving to the gas station. Bullseye Pro is your anywhere, anytime inflation station. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system, all for the factory direct price of just $79.99. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. But to really inflate this offer, we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. You get it all. An incredible value for one low price. Call or go online to order now.
To order, call 1-800-473-8032 or go to getbullseyepro.com. So call 1-800-473-8032 or order online at getbullseyepro.com. Order now.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Puma.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you can save.
Businesses start small, but a lot of them take off. As your business grows, ShipStation grows with you, so you can sync and manage all your orders, no matter how big you get. ShipStation's custom automations maximize your team's time. Plus, you get more carrier options at the lowest possible rates. Keep your business growing. Head to ShipStation.com to start your free trial today.
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. This is really complex. Discover business,
Economic trends. Really, you're seeing something here.
nature, and culture, and the stories shaping Africa today.
Export it to markets around the world.
The energy is amazing. Feels so good to be here.
This is CNN.
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure, if you can run with the bulls and not be afraid of the bears, for when we come together, we will make sense of it all.
And what is more, my friend, you will be profitable, for you are indeed what you questioning business.
The 5 Days Podcast from CNN. Get today's top 5 stories, all in one podcast. The 5 things you need to hear in under 5 minutes. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. New tonight, Luigi Mangione has officially been indicted on federal charges in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This not only heaps on the charges Mangione already faces, but it also puts the death penalty on the table, at least for Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's saying, I directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case as we carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Joining me now to discuss, former Manhattan prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Jeremy Saland. Really appreciate you being here. I think people thought you charged already. You've charged at the state level. Now you've got new charges. Mangione, as we've heard from the Attorney General, facing the death penalty with these new charges. Does that seem likely, or is that more posturing that you would do as a prosecutor coming into a case like this?
I think the general wants to, quote unquote, keep America safe again, but it's somewhat more posturing. If you may or may not recall, only about 7, 8 years ago, there was a guy who ran over, unfortunately, mowed down and killed people in New York. Correct. That person, in jury, did not say was deserving of the death penalty. You need an unanimous verdict. But I just want to say very, very quickly, you hear the president today talking about a terrible thing that happened with these killings and these guns campuses. When he has a child on a college campus, I have a child on a college campus. When you talk about the obligation to protect the Second Amendment, I would say to Mr. President, you have an obligation to protect the people of the United States. And a CEO, as tragic as it is, and it is tragic, and it takes nothing away from it, that is no different or more deserving of a death penalty than if someone crosses state lines with a gun and kills, for example, their ex-spouse in a domestic violence case. There needs to be a reprioritizing of what is right, how to protect the nation if we're really going to keep America safe again.
And, as people sort of look at this case, obviously it's been very closely followed. Mangione has already pleaded not guilty to 11 counts in New York, including first-degree murder and furtherance of terrorism. If convicted on that charge, he could face life without parole. Those are state charges, though. Can you just walk us through some of the key differences between the federal and state charges? Is there a case that will be harder to prove? I mean, just what are the differences here?
Yeah, I think for the state to get that murder one charge, which again can't get the death penalty, that has that terrorism element. That is not an element for murder in the second degree, where in the that state and in the federal case, they don't have to prove that element of that terrorism piece or component. What they would do is you're using this firearm across state lines, for lack of a better way to describe it, in that murder or homicide. So it's easier for the murder two, and it's easier for the federal case, but it's much more difficult for New York to get the murder one conviction.
And, Jeremy, for many, this case has become a symbol of national outrage at America's healthcare system. Some of our reporters, for example, have spoken to some of Mangione's more vocal supporters here. But I guess when you have a highly publicized case on an issue that might be highly charged as well, how does the court handle trying to find impartial jurors in a case where a lot of people have a lot of opinions?
Yeah, it's difficult, but you hope and expect that ultimately the court will instruct the jury, potential jurors, correctly. We had a case which was at the time the biggest case, and maybe still is, with Donald Trump Supreme Court finding a jury that's going to be honest and follow the law. The concern here is for the prosecution that you might have, for lack of a better term, a sleeper person who may say the right thing, but have really an allegiance, if you will, to Mangione, because all you need is one person to get a mistrial. So that's more of a danger for the prosecution than it is a defense, but both sides are going to want to make sure they have the right jury.
And from a legal perspective, should the defense try to put the healthcare system on trial as part of their strategy? I mean, how effective would that be? Because again, a lot of people do look at this case, or at least aspects of this case, as an indictment on the healthcare system as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a component of it. I do believe that there's a mental health in terms of the actual defense, but when you're looking at mitigation, which plays nullification type of a scenario in a trial like this, you're going to want to put it out there, because that serves on the heartstrings of so many people who have loved ones and family members that issue
And thank you all for watching. Really appreciate the time.
South Africa and beyond. In Cape Town, energy and innovation flow through South Africa's cultural capital. We find inspiration by looking at the mount that project is in South Africa on CNN in association with Zenith Bank.
any of these explosions, any of these conditions from other This is how Ukraine is honoring one of its fallen communities.
I'm Richard West, and love in the world. Born to my open heart. It's time to embrace your adventures.
Take the boat on a southeasterly bearing and you'll see the vessel you're boarding.
the energy sector. It sounds very cool. Yeah. It really feels like plastic. Technology. This is the next generation of computing.
Where are we headed?
Reservists, fighter pilots, former spies, and others.
The latest mass shooting on a school campus in the U.S. has left 2 people dead, 5 others wounded, and the son of a local service deputy is hospital and accused of being the shooter. He's also a student at Florida State University, and the police allege just before midday he opened fire on his mother's handgun. The 20-year-old was shot by police after refusing to comply with their demand. His injuries are described as serious, but not life-threatening. And a warning, the images we're about to play may be disturbing to some viewers. Staff and students were sent running to cover the panic as the gunman began shooting. It was a classified lockdown. These are some witnesses described it.
It was hot, young student. It was just like you could tell, but it was like running all over the place. And then you had a gurney, and then like the gurney on his back, and the guy had his arm cut off.
Downstairs. Shots started ringing out. Kids started running. She got trampled over.
Unfortunately, and that's when I saw him shoot a woman and purple drugs in the back, in her back, and I just started running.
After the shooting, 3 investigators found 3 guns on campus, and they believe the gunman was acting alone. This is the 6th mass shooting this year in just the state of Florida. Right now, why did this happen? In Enrique Gillespie has our reports from Tallahassee in Florida.
A heartbreaking tragedy on the campus of FSU here in Tallahassee that has shattered the safety and security of so many here on campus, and a big question remains. Authorities are asking themselves that question. They say that the gunman invoked his Fifth Amendment right and is not cooperating with investigators. But in a press conference earlier, here are the details that they gave. They said that alleged gunman came on campus here through the census just surprisingly, and at about 11:50 on Thursday, opened fire. Witnesses that we spoke to said they heard sporadic gunfire in rapid succession, and one of those witnesses is the chaplain at the church here just off camera. It was the church that ended up being a shelter for hundreds of students as they rushed to safety. And it was that chaplain who said he saw the look of fear on those students that he'd never seen before. People were coming with faces of terror, and fear that I haven't seen before, and fear and it's and so as they were coming in, we secured the building, and we only had one entrance available so we could see who's coming in. And I was personally concerned about stray bullets because I knew they were coming from very close by. But we were able to help people, and there was a lot of stock. While investigators say the threat to the community is over, as of Thursday night, it was still somewhat of an active scene. Spotted investigators on the scene, a biologics team still cleaning up the aftermath of that incident, and a shoe that was just left at random on the sidewalk at the campus, a truly simple of what went down here on Thursday morning. That Catholic church I mentioned had a mass as well on Thursday where hundreds of people showed up. No standing room only, no windows in any of those streets. And they covered those victims in place. Not much is known about the victims, only that the 2 that were killed were not students at FSU, and as of Thursday night, those injured were listed in stable condition. Nick Valencia, CNN, Tallahassee, Florida.
An upbeat and optimistic-sounding U.S. president says direct talks with China over tariffs are now underway, raising hopes of a possible breakthrough in a trade war which continues to rattle financial markets worldwide. But President Trump refused to say but he spoke personally.
Those jets before they down you. I am not pulling the EMP out of your wreckage.
And if we don't make a deal, we set the target. That's that. And then I think over the next
the president also met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni at the White House and has put the victims into the
Well, you think they won't be? Of course they'll be very much. They want to make one very much. And they I fully expect it. But it is there.
Look at like I'm salty that like the advisor. Maybe I'm just saying day to day, hour to hour. There's obviously now it's not going to happen. It will take and they'll just everything to do. Okay, so there's options for one. But I'm going to get that the inside of the world. That is share. In fact, what we heard from the president, I felt like the options direct hit. That is not the president. And then five manufacturers good quote-unquote Chinese peasants. So what we want to convey here on this side of the road is that is one of the problems, including obstacles, that China has, according to what we're reporting from our team in the region, according to a person who is familiar with Beijing's thinking. They're saying that high-level trade talks have not started because you hear things like that from President Trump, from behind the Red Blue desk, but you don't hear Marco Rubio or Vice President Vance conveying that same kind of rhetoric. They find those high-level officials to be too hawkish. So, if our viewers from the United States and around the world are thinking, okay, well, we hear this from President Trump, is Beijing mirroring those comments? The answer right now, afternoon in East Asia, is no. We are not there yet. So when we're moving on to Japan and where we are in South Korea, we're going to be watching over the next couple days as we head into the weekend and then begin a new week. What are negotiations going to look like with South Korea? The administration is pretty keen on trying to get a trade deal done with both Japan and South Korea, U.S. allies, to show that it is actually making moves and rather than just engaging in a trade war, that it is actually able to garner results and to make a deal within a few weeks with these key U.S. allies. So wrapping up here, what we're going to be looking for is to see whether the tariff comes down on a nation specifically like South Korea and what South Korea gives in return. Like, we'll have a lower tariff in return for a nation like South Korea helping out the United States with shipbuilding, becoming a new liquefied natural gas customer for this big old pipeline that President Trump mentioned in the joint address to Congress in the beginning of March. So we're going to be seeing what are the exact contours of these deals looking like as, again, negotiations with China. President Trump says one thing, but the conversations remain elusive, at least from our reporting here in the region, John.
Mike, thank you. Mike Below there in Seoul. Well, financial markets have also been spooked after the U.S. president lashed out at the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Trump made it clear he wants Powell gone as head of the central bank. That's after Powell warned on Wednesday there would be higher inflation and unemployment from Trump's tariffs. Trump is also angry with Powell for not cutting interest rates fast enough as the U.S. lags behind Europe. Reporters asked about the criticism during the Oval Office meeting with Italy's Prime Minister. The president says Powell is playing politics.
Oh, if I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late. Always too late. Too slow. I let him know it. And if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me.
Meriwether Security at the Port of LS.
We go to Specials now, and Ron Brownstein,
Details are on your board.
John, this
You're
is
bored at the apartment.
So a day after the Fed chair warned of the negative impact of Donald Trump's tariffs, cue the outrage and the interest.
The Fed really owes it to the American people to get interest rates down. They're not very smart people. We have a Federal Reserve Chairman that is playing politics. Somebody that I've never been very fond of, actually. Our guy wants to play cute. I think he's terrible.
The pattern here is now obvious. Here's the Fed chair, judges, inspectors general, heads of independent agencies. The list goes on. The president is intent on reining in their independence and their authority, and that in turn increases the power of the presidency, and that will have consequences long after Trump is gone.
Yeah, I mean, what we're watching, I think, is an attempt to reorder the American constitutional system and drive big holes in it that exceeds in many ways the worst expectations in both inside the government and outside the government and civil society. It's systematically reviewing the way that 4 years, probably most interesting Miller and Russell fought to disable all the potential sources of resistance to kind of, untrammeled presidential power. And as many people who have studied these issues around the world have pointed out, there's the playbook of, figures who tried to transform societies from democracies into authoritarian states. You eliminate the sources of resistance, you weaken all the independent power centers, and then you move forward to impose your designs on the entire society.
And last week, after announcing the reciprocal tariffs on almost all U.S. trading partners, but before the 90-day pause, the president seemed almost giddy with delight being at the center of the universe. Period.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make it here. Please, make it here.
Yeah, be it world leaders or corporate executives, if they want any relief from tariffs, the power is with the president. They have to go to him. He clearly enjoys that authority.
Hello, people.
But the power
I
is
think you'll
technically
like
taken
this.
from Congress.
Pays a lot, which
The
is
Congress
what
has
you
sort of
want.
deferred that to presidents
So
over
there's
the
this
years.
chemical
It's still a violation of the
laboratory
Constitution.
called Humane
All those other
Labs.
violations.
Used to be run by Reshkovsky and Poplar's pharma company. A few years ago, it was leased to a shadow company run in part by Don Percival. You guys know Don Percival? Well, he's a warmongering right-wing douche with all the subtlety of a red dildo. Trust me, I've met a lot of them. Warmongering right-wing douches, not red dildos. Whatever. Point is, Percival is up to no good in that shithole. Nerve agents, we believe. At least that's what the intel seems to suggest. What I got told on the streets, and what my boss, who doesn't want you to know his name, will pay you to discover, because what? Don't worry about the why, just worry about the how. First, got a couple things to take care of. Get the Humane Labs key codes and the armored 4x4s, like the ones guarding the place. We'll do the key code exchange just off Elgin Avenue. You're going to be meeting with somebody who's had a bit of trouble with the Bureau, so please use caution. One of you is going to do the exchange, one of you is a bodyguard, and the other two are going to be lookouts. The armored 4x4s belong to Merriweather Security Consulting, which belongs to Don Percival, who is running Humane Labs. You'll find the Merriweather insurgents on exercise at Davis Courts in Blaine County. All right, people, doesn't matter what order you do this in, just get it done. This will pay well. No questions asked. We never met.
Ultimately, it's going to require kind of more organized resistance, whether that's street protests or universities banding together to say no, than we've seen so far to prevent Trump from transforming society to the extent that he seems determined to do.
And with regard to that Maryland man who's now in El Salvador in that prison, Killer Abrego Garcia, the administration has argued it has the authority to deport migrants without due process. And the White House says it's powerless now to actually bring him back, because that's an authority which is left up to Venezuela. So we now have the president talking about deportation as an option for U.S. citizens who may have broken the law. How close is this country to a scenario where anyone could actually be taken from their home, put on a plane, and then sent to El Salvador and wind up in a prison? And even though you may have done absolutely nothing wrong, the president says, sorry, it's now out of our hands. Can't do anything.
Well, look, I mean, today, Judge Harvey Wilkinson, appointed by Ronald Reagan, has been on the bench for 4 decades on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, basically warned that is exactly the scenario that is, kind of looming out there. That, today, you basically say you can deport people who are not citizens without due process, and tomorrow you might say that you could. If the Supreme Court does not want the U.S. to be living in that world, they need to say so more explicitly than they did in their initial ruling on this, when they, said that people should be given habeas corpus before a hearing before they are removed, but had all sorts of kind of mild and weaselly language about they need to facilitate it but not effectuate it. You saw how Trump, we saw this in his first term. I mean,
Trump responds to one thing: force. A force that is powerful enough to deny him what he wants. That's certainly the lesson China took from his first term. And if John Roberts wants to be anything but ignored and kind of mocked in the way that Trump and the El Salvador dictator did earlier this week, he needs to draw some lines and say so in much more explicit language than he did in this initial decision. I mean, there's a message here for the court. Some people have argued that Judge Wilkinson was writing for the court, basically telling them, look, guys, if this is what you believe, and I think it is what you do, you need to send Trump a much clearer message than you did the first time.
Yeah, Ron, thank you. Ron Brownstein there in Los Angeles. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks for having me.
Well, a day after the government in El Salvador denied U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen access to Kilmar Gregor Garcia, on Thursday they did actually meet. Senator Chris Van Hollen said the meeting came after he was denied entry to the maximum security prison, where Garcia has been since March. U.S. and European officials try to find common ground in a moment after the break on a potential ceasefire in Ukraine. High-profile meeting in Paris as the White House waits for word from Moscow about ceasefire plans. Also ahead, Houthi rebels vowing to hold Washington responsible after a deadly U.S. airstrike in Yemen. More on that in a moment.
Are you sitting right now? It could be harming your health. Back pain, stress, and serious health risks can build up from sitting too long. But motion changes everything. Introducing Ready Rocker with its patented Rock Perfect design that supports your spine as it helps improve posture, relieve back pain, boost circulation, and release endorphins for your overall well-being, no matter where you are. Lightweight, portable, and covered in memory foam, Ready Rocker instantly transforms any chair or space into a healthier sitting experience.
Sitting too long isn't just uncomfortable, it's unhealthy. With Ready Rocker, we make sitting a healthier experience for people of all ages.
From soothing babies to helping with posture, back pain, and stress, we discovered that rocking can truly improve life.
Sedentary lifestyle, whether you're sitting at a desk or in a vehicle all day, is not good for the body. And that's why the Ready Rocker is so effective. The rocking motion constantly keeps you active and helps you ease pain, reduces stress. It's a mood booster.
I used to be in pain all the time, but with Ready Rocker, I felt relief, and I'm in a better mood.
I can literally feel the stress being taken off my joints while rocking.
My back stopped hurting, my arthritis felt better. It's just wonderful.
Thousands are finding relief with Ready Rocker, and now you can too. For a limited time, you can get Ready Rocker for just 4 easy payments of only $29.99. Call now. And we'll include the smart strap to secure and carry your Ready Rocker. And this protective cover, a $40 value free. Plus, we'll even ship it to you for free. That's an incredible value for the low price you see on your screen. So don't delay. Order today.
Call 1-800-801-2976 and go to GetReadyRocker.com. That's 1-800-801-2976 and go to GetReadyRocker.com. Call now.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece bakeware set, a $60 value, absolutely free. Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't look at it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammer pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic hanging in my kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love these.
Hammered pans are ultra non-stick. Nothing sticks. Even gooey mac and cheese slips out with ease. And look, these sticky candies melted with a torch are no match for hammered pans. Plus, they're super durable, so use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips out and a pan that looks just like new. They're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie, cheesy lasagna, or this whole chicken dinner. Any recipe looks great in these pans. From steak flambe to delicious desserts and delicate fish, nothing sticks. Plus, the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Similar sets are over $1,000, but you won't pay that, not $500 or even $300. Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99, and we'll even guarantee it for a full 10 years. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. Together, these are an $80 value. Yours 100% free. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now. To order, call 1-800-807-6648 or go to buyhammered.com. That's 1-800-807-6648, or you can order online at buyhammered.com.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com today to get our $9 offer.
I'm Zainab Shah, and this is CNN.
The U.S. military hit an oil port in western Yemen Thursday. Houthi officials say at least 20 people were killed, 50 others injured, and warned the U.S. will be held responsible for the repercussions of its escalation. The strikes are the latest move in a month-long effort to disrupt Houthi weapons smuggling and revenue streams. Houthi rebels have repeatedly attacked commercial shipping in the Red Sea in support of Palestinians in Gaza. The United States and Ukraine moving ahead with their deal on critical minerals. Thursday, signing a memorandum of intent, a step closer to a full agreement, which, according to the U.S. president, could be signed as early as next week. Trump also says he'll hear from the Kremlin this week about his proposed 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukraine is fully on board with that proposal, but Moscow has issued a long list of conditions, leading to accusations that Russia is trying to delay any agreement. Meanwhile, U.S. and European officials held high-level talks in Paris on Thursday, which French officials described as excellent. CNN's Nick Robertson has details.
So these were important meetings, big meetings, because it was the first time since February senior U.S. officials, senior European officials, leaders even, had met to discuss the ceasefire arrangements that the United States has been calling for, President Trump has been calling for since February. Of course, Ukraine has already signed up a long time ago now, it feels, to this unconditional ceasefire. The pressure has been on President Putin, and it was the U.S. envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's been meeting face-to-face with President Putin, and the sense has been in Europe that Witkoff is being spun and played by Putin, that Putin isn't serious about getting into a ceasefire right now. So Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, meeting with Emmanuel Macron, the French president, the French foreign minister. That was the first sort of big meeting at lunch, a working lunch for the day. But then there were lots of other meetings. Rubio, Witkoff meeting with European counterparts, British, French, German foreign ministers. Also, those countries had their national security advisors or equivalents in the room. And as well at these meetings, you have the Ukrainian defense minister and the Ukrainian foreign minister. So a lot of conversations, not a lot of detail coming out. But a French official has described the meetings in this way, saying they were very strong strategic opportunity, and actually goes on in quite effusive language to say this. It was an excellent exchange, a high-quality exchange, a substantive exchange that allowed us to converge on the essential goals, which for us is a solid peace for Ukraine, which means a solid peace for Ukraine and for the Europeans. So the French playing this as a meeting that was successful, but we don't know who convinced which side of what. We know clearly that Emmanuel Macron is someone who knows President Putin very well, and he may well sat there and listened to Steve Witkoff explaining the conversations he's had with President Putin, but Emmanuel Macron is the sort of leader who would want to give his input back to the US side. So the exchanges, the details unclear, but the narrative emerging is that this moves in the right direction. Quite how and at what speed, it is absolutely unclear. What has been very clear, and some of those national security advisors in those meetings with the US officials very firmly believe that Putin absolutely not committed to getting into a ceasefire. Believes, in fact, that he can still win on the battlefield. That's what we've been hearing over recent weeks. So again, the substance of those meetings not clear. But the French playing it, as a success, moving the ball in the right direction. Again, how much? Unclear. Nick Robertson, CNN, London.
Still ahead here on CNN, the Israeli reservists demanding the Israeli government end the war in Gaza.
Nothing is handed to you in the women's game. I want to help women's football grow. To show women can be involved in all aspects of the game. With Hyundai supporting the Women's World Cup, I hope to see more women playing. More and girls dreaming big. People never ready for it. We inspire the future.
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. It's really complex, this agribusiness,
Economic trends. Really, you're seeing something here.
nature, and culture, and the stories shaping Africa today.
Exported to markets around the world. The energy is amazing. Feels so good to be here.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment, and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
How do you feel being in here with these badly wounded soldiers? I was just being criticized for how I looked.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers.
What do you want people to know about mortality?
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes for Syria. It's corny to say, but it's about love. It's anything worth living for.
Today on CNN. I'm Richard West. I love traveling the world. Broaden the mind, open the heart. None more to go yet. It's time to embrace new adventures. Over. This is going to get very messy. It's good. Seize the moments. This
There's a planet of men. Just watch this. It's a hit because Abby Phillip brings all kinds of
I will say this. When it shows that how positive pressure to talk about these issues, Congresswoman, it is no health. The answer is zero. The policy.
What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question?
And the biggest debates to wrap up your day.
I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
Newsnight with Abby Phillip tonight on CNN.
I'm Ben Wiedemann in Rome, and this is CNN.
Being on that stage, it's a different adrenaline. This is the peak of women's basketball. I've always hated losing, and I love winning.
Here's to generations of fearless, unstoppable.
Hit hard on the ground. Safe.
I can, and I will, and I am. Here's to the next generation. Find your league. Get in the game.
I'm Nick Robertson in London, and this is CNN.
And
An Israeli proposal for a Gaza ceasefire has been fully rejected by Hamas, which wants a comprehensive proposal to end the war. Hamas's outright rejection of the ceasefire has prompted calls by Israel's far right to escalate the war, urging the Prime Minister to unleash hell. The Israeli proposal called for a 45-day truce for both sides to negotiate a permanent ceasefire, and Hamas would be required to release all remaining hostages in stages. But there was no guarantee of an end to the war. And there is frustration and dissent growing among those serving on the front lines of Israel's war in Gaza. A growing number of Israeli reservists are publicly condemning the Israeli Prime Minister's decision to resume fighting in the territory. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has details.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Or Goren spent months deploying to Gaza as a combat physician in the Israeli military, treating and evacuating wounded soldiers. Now he's part of a growing number of reservists who believe the war is no longer serving its stated goals, destroying Hamas and returning the hostages.
No, I don't believe it anymore. And it's a year and a half that Gaza is demolished. Hundreds of tens of thousands of people killed. The houses there are destructed. Infrastructure is destructed, but Hamas still rules the place, still shoots rockets. And so where are we heading?
Goren is one of thousands of reservists who have signed public letters calling on the Israeli government to end the war and strike a hostage deal. The first letter from Air Force reservists and retirees quickly spawned others, from combat physicians and paratroopers to sailors and military intelligence officers, all echoing this message. At this time, the war mainly serves political and personal interests and not security interests. Continuation of the war will lead to the death of abductees, IDF soldiers, and innocent civilians, to the attrition of reservists. The Israeli military, which heavily depends on reservists, works towards regular forces, moving swiftly to quash the dissent. Dozens of reservists who signed letters. The Israeli Prime Minister slamming the signatories as a small group of backers, accusing them of refusing to serve for political reasons.
There's nothing beautiful about it. They're the backbone of this society. How can we sign it for?
The outrage in Israel is mounting. 70 and Israelis say they want a deal to end the war and get the hostages out, according to Israel's Channel 12. And now, between rising political opposition and the burden of multiple tours on reservists and their families, as many as 40% of reservists no longer showing up when called to duty. Even among those who support the war, like Maytal Bernstein-Hadari, 18 months of war is taking its toll. Her husband has spent more than 300 days deployed, forcing her to scale back her speech therapy practice as she raises her 4 kids. During this latest 5th deployment, my entire body hurt, she says. For 300 days, he wasn't home, and I needed to carry on my small shoulders what we usually hold together. But while others say enough is enough, Maytal wants Israel to keep fighting.
The limit when we
The limit, she says, is when we win. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Tel Aviv.
Millions of Christians prepare to celebrate Easter. Pope Francis marked Holy Thursday with a visit to prison. The latest public appearance from a recovering Catholic.
Are you sitting right now? It could be harming your health. Back pain, stress, and serious health risks can build up from sitting too long. But motion changes everything. Introducing Ready Rocker with its perfect design that supports your spine. And it helps improve posture, relieve back pain, boost circulation, and release endorphins for your overall well-being. No matter where you are. Lightweight, portable, and covered in memory foam, Ready Rocker instantly transforms any chair or space into a healthier sitting experience.
Sitting too long isn't just uncomfortable, it's unhealthy. With Ready Rocker, we make sitting a healthier experience for people of all ages.
From treating babies to helping with posture, back pain, and stress, we discovered that rocking can truly improve health. Sitting is the new smoking. Sedentary lifestyle, whether you're sitting at a desk or in a vehicle all day, is not good for the body to stay in the same position. That's why the Ready Rocker is so effective. The rocking motion instantly keeps you fit and
that should ease pain, reduce strain. It's a new stuff.
I used to feel pain all the time. But with Ready Rocker, I don't believe. And I'm in a better mood. Pain is everywhere.
I can literally feel the stress being taken off my joints while resting. My back stopped hurting, my arthritis felt better. It's stress-free.
The movement that's changing lives and helping thousands find relief. Call now or go online to get 40% off your purchase. We'll even ship it for free. Plus, you'll get this bonus smart strap to secure your Ready Rocker and the Ready Rocker protective cover.
Ready Rocker is changing lives one rocker at a time.
Now it's your turn to experience the relief for yourself.
Call 1-800-774-1914 or go to buyreadyrocker.com. That's 1-800-774-1914 or go to buyreadyrocker.com. Call now.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece bakeware set, a $60 value, absolutely free. Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammer pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic hanging in my kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love them.
Hammer pans are ultra non-stick. Nothing sticks. Even gooey mac and cheese slips out with ease. And look, these sticky candies melted with a torch are no match for hammer pans. Plus, they're super durable, so use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips out on a pan that looks just like you. They're even up and safe up to 500 degrees. So make homemade chicken pot pie, or this lasagna, or this hot chicken dinner. Any recipe looks great in these pans, from steak flambe to delicious desserts. Delicate fish, nothing sticks. Plus, the entire set is dishwasher safe with no info.
Similar sets are over $1,000. Back, 500 or even 300. Get a full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99. And they'll even ship it to you free. Just open it up with just 4 payments of $49.99. And you'll even guarantee it for a full 10 years. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and spreader. And a 9-piece bread set with every pencil you ever need to make delicious bread, cakes, and desserts. Together, these are an $80 value and 100% free. It's a huge PPV set with free shipping. Or click now.
To order, call 1-800-807-6648 or go to buyhammered.com. That's 1-800-807-6648, or you can order online at buyhammered.com.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
I'm Monica Montgomery in Tokyo, and this is CNN. What does it mean to be out front? It's going there.
We are just about 3 miles from the Gaza border.
It's context and curiosity, so you can be out front too.
Let's go out front.
Aaron Burnett out front, tonight on CNN.
Google has lost another antitrust lawsuit brought by the U.S. Justice Department, the second in less than 12 months. That's after a federal judge ruled the giant search engine violated antitrust laws with a monopoly over online advertising. This ruling could reshape Google, with the company ordered to sell off parts of its parent company, Alphabet. Google is now facing sweeping penalties, has vowed to appeal, but that process could take years to play out. Today, Christians around the world are observing Good Friday. The Vatican will mark the day with their annual celebration, but Pope Francis is not expected to be there. The pontiff did make a surprise appearance at a prison on Thursday. The 88-year-old is recovering after 5 weeks in hospital, battling double pneumonia. Pope Francis gave little away.
Your Holiness, how are you?
I feel seated.
How are you doing this Easter after your hospitalization?
How can I live it how I can.
The Holy Father was greeted with applause at the prison. He offered well wishes to the inmates ahead of Easter. Francis has visited prisons regularly during his papacy, especially on Holy Thursday. I'm John Paul. Thank you for watching. I'll be back at the top of the hour with more CNN Newsroom, but please stay with us. World Sports starts after a short break.
We try to be global and we try to be smart. And we try very hard to get both of those every week. But I want to hear authentic voices of people who are passionate, who are intelligent about a subject, who will make you smarter, move you emotionally, who will kind of challenge your mind or move your heart. And that's the consistency that we try to get at.
Fareed Zakaria, GPS, Sundays on CNN.
It is a busy day all around the world.
This is One World.
The world's top headlines with some of the world's biggest players.
Stories that captivate from two unique perspectives. Zain Asher and Biana Golodriga use their extensive experience to cover global news with passion and intellect.
Walk us through what specifically Secretary of State Marco Rubio was talking about. What leverage, if any, does Prime Minister Netanyahu have?
One World with Zain Asher and Biana Golodriga today on CNN.
I'm Minister Bell in Paris, and this is CNN.
Inside Africa. See a continent in transformation as trailblazers evolve culture, technology, and industry across Africa and beyond. In Cape Town, witness the energy and innovation flowing through South Africa's cultural capital.
You find inspiration by looking at the mountains, going to the beach, so like the inspiration is endless.
Inside Africa on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
They are throwing water cannon at us. No, this is not.
We are here to peacefully protest, but the police are here to fight us.
It's still raining, and there's more expected. But you're worried about the children mostly. Yes, my children, they're not, they go to school again.
Very bad, because all my family is here.
We don't know where is Mazat now. We need to collectively ensure that resources are mobilized. If you don't know where you come from, you don't know who you are.
My happy place. One place I could truly be myself. I feel a deep sense of calm when I'm here.
Whenever my schedule clears, I head straight to my happy place.
Bali allowed me.
I want people to experience this beautifully intricate, diverse city. There's no other place like it. My Happy Place premieres April 27th on CNN.
I'm Richard West. I love traveling the world. Broaden the mind, open the heart, and I'm not done yet. It's time to embrace new adventures. All aboard! This is my first ride on a jeepney. It's exciting. Find the fun.
This is going to get very messy. Good.
Seize the moments in this world of wonder. King of the world!
Saturday on CNN.
You know the deal.
It's a European marketplace that's constantly evolving.
We're all in this together.
From the energy sector, wow, look at
It
that.
sounds
Very cool.
Yeah, it really feels like plastic.
The technology,
This is the next generation of computing.
Cut prices today. Check them out.
the latest in luxury.
What we're doing is world class.
Are you more drawn to the classic? I'm a classic girl. I'm Anna Stewart. And I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
Saturday on CNN.
In a divided America,
Where do I fit?
you tell me, ask your partner. Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table.
Can you name one thing you do differently?
The hypocrisy is so rank, folks, at all classes in session. To talk about the issue, Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero. The policy.
What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question?
And the biggest debates to wrap up your day. I hear what you're saying, Trump believes him, but do you think it's a good idea? News Night with Abby Phillip, tonight on CNN.
Hello, welcome to World Sport. I'm Andy Scholes in Atlanta. Well, the next 15 months promise to be a busy one for soccer in America. While anticipation mounts for the FIFA World Cup in 2026, which is being hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico this summer, sees the newly expanded FIFA Club World Cup taking place on American soil with 32 teams battling it out in for a cut of that record $1 billion prize pool. Now, the man who is in charge of global football, FIFA President Gianni Infantino,
Hello. How are your things? Bye. Hello there. Hello. You get used to it down here, yes? I do not even smell the smell anymore. Speak to me, my darling.
luxury car is available to win. Stop by and have a try at the Lucky Wheel.
Okay, well, I'll take it. Not the best, not the worst.
Have your car serviced at any time with our luxury valet service. Just upgrade to VIP status and you're on your way to never having to park your own car again.
She blew it. Best she ever did.
Hey, so, I know you've been there already, but Pooh just called and said I can come through and get a tour of Dre's studio as a thank you for what we did for him.
What it takes to stand up to Donald Trump. They sparred over house
running. It was just like complete chaos.
The alleged gunman shot by police but still alive, and according to investigators, his handgun.
Very optimistic, to say the least. But it is clear that the president said he did believe he could reach some type of a negotiation with the European Union. That's why Maloney was here in Washington. 20%, a tariff that was initially scheduled to go into effect 2 weeks ago, that was put on pause until July 9th or so. But again, all of this tariff policy coming as the president is continuing
That's a
to
whole
lash out
whale.
at the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, giving the markets even more uncertainty. Jeff Zeleny, CNN, the White House.
Live now to Seoul. CNN's Mike Valerio there for us. So, we've got a situation where the
Bitch, that's a
president
whole
is
whale.
upbeat and optimistic about everything that can happen, but there's still confusion from the White House.
So confusing, certainly from the White House and also from Beijing. John, I wish we were talking in an hour to an hour and a half, you and I, because we're going to have a briefing from Beijing, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, scheduled for Friday at 3 p.m. So you bet we're going to be asking more questions to the press secretary and the spokesperson who is standing in front of that lectern to ask them, okay, so we have President Trump behind the Resolute desk saying that talks are happening between Beijing, but just how high level are those talks? And it seems as though the optimism, according to our latest reporting from Beijing and the region, is not shared. It's not mirrored between D.C. and Beijing. People who are familiar with Beijing's point of view, one source who was the crux of our main reporting, was saying that there's still a respect problem, that what we heard from the Oval Office with President Trump saying, oh yeah, there's going to be a trade deal, 3 to 4 weeks, that we have a great relationship with Xi Jinping, there's that song that the president is singing, but it's not mirrored by his other officials, like Vice President J.D. Vance, like Secretary of State Marco Rubio. There's still hawkish language, and according to our reporting from Beijing, Trump's refusal to disavow that kind of language, like Vice President Vance calling people in China peasants and saying that the United States borrows from peasants to buy peasants' stuff, things that peasants manufacture, that's not helpful. That is putting negotiations in certainly the opposite direction that they want to go. But you know what? When we look at the markets here in Seoul and in Tokyo, that is the opposite story. They're both in the green right now, relatively solid gains, both in Seoul and Tokyo on this last day of trading in the week, because they seem to think these key American allies, the negotiations for them are going in the right direction. So the White House certainly wants to convey to the world that for these two key Asia trading partners, Japan and South Korea, it can bring them to the negotiating table pretty early and come out with a trade deal that is notable because we have huge car exporters here between Japan and South Korea. Think Honda, Toyota, Hyundai, Kia. So he is keen to make a deal. China, though, still, John, remains elusive.
Mike, thank you. Mike Valerio in Seoul. Appreciate the report.
No problem.
Well, the leaders of Canada's main political parties met for their last debate of the election on Thursday, each trying to prove they have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump. They sparred over housing policy, the cost of living, energy proposals. But the US president's tariffs and his threats to annex Canada have dominated the campaign. They've upended the polls with Liberal Party leader and current Prime Minister Mark Carney now leading. His main competition, the Conservatives, hope to regain that lead. A French language debate was held on Wednesday. Canada's general election takes place April 28th. Well, US Senator Chris Van Hollen appears to be the first US official who's actually had a conversation, directly meeting with a Maryland man who was wrongly deported to El Salvador. Van Hollen said he met with Kilmar Moreno Garcia in San Salvador on Thursday. The Salvadorian president, Nayib Bukele, posted pictures of the meeting on social media, writing that Moreno Garcia gets the, quote, honor of staying in El Salvador's custody. The Trump administration initially said in court documents that Moreno Garcia was deported because of a clerical error. But in the past few days, U.S. officials have denied his deportation was a mistake. Also Thursday, a U.S. appeals court rejected a new Trump administration request to block a judge's order directing it to facilitate Moreno Garcia's return. The court says the administration's assertions in the case should be, quote, shocking not only to the judge, but to the sense of liberty Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. The court also criticized Trump. Efforts to undo rulings in the case, saying a conflict between the judiciary and the White House promises to diminish both branches. The latest mass shooting on a school campus in the U.S. has left 2 people dead, 5 others wounded, and the son of a local sheriff's deputy in hospital and accused of being the shooter. He's also a student at Florida State University in Tallahassee, where police allege just before midday he opened fire with his mother's handgun. The 20-year-old was shot by police demands. His injuries are described as serious but not life-threatening. Staff and students were sent running for cover as the gunman began shooting, triggering a campus-wide lockdown. This is the 6th mass shooting this year in just the state of Florida alone. CNN's Nick Valencia reports now from Tallahassee.
A heartbreaking tragedy on the campus of FSU here in Tallahassee that has shattered the safety and security of so many here on campus. And a big question remains here is the motive of this alleged gunman. And authorities are asking themselves that question. They say that the gunman has invoked his Fifth Amendment right and is not cooperating with investigators. But at a press conference earlier, here are the details that they gave. They say that alleged gunman came on campus here through this entrance just behind me, and at about 11:50 on Thursday, opened fire. The witnesses that we spoke to said they heard sporadic gunfire in rapid succession, and one of those witnesses is the chaplain at the church here just off camera. It was a church that ended up being a shelter for hundreds of students as they rushed to safety, and it was that chaplain who said he saw the look of fear on those students that he had never seen before. People were coming with faces of terror, and it was fear that I had not seen before, and it was it really shakes you up. And so as they were coming in, we secured the building and we only had one entrance available so we could see who's coming in. And I was personally concerned about stray bullets because I knew that was coming from very close by. But we were able to help people, and there was a lot of shock. While investigators say the threat to the community is over, as of Thursday night, it was still somewhat of an active scene. We spotted investigators on the scene, a biologics team still cleaning up the aftermath of that incident, and a shoe that was just sort of left at random on the sidewalk of the campus, an eerie symbol of what went down here on Thursday morning. That Catholic church I mentioned had a mass as well on Thursday where hundreds of people showed up. No standing room only. There was no room in any of those pews, and they covered those victims in prayer. Not much is known about the victims. Only who were killed were not students at FSU, and as of Thursday night, those injured were listed in stable condition. Nick Valencia, CNN, Tallahassee, Florida.
The only suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO has now been indicted on federal charges, which includes stalking, there's a firearms offence, as well as murder. The federal murder charge means the suspect, Luigi Mangione, could be sentenced to death if found guilty. And the U.S. Attorney General has said the Justice Department will seek the death penalty. Mangione has previously pleaded not guilty to New York State charges. The Menendez brothers will have to wait until next month for their next chance at freedom. Lyle and Eric Menendez were sentenced to life in prison for the 1989 murder of their parents. On Thursday, their long-awaited resentencing hearing was delayed for 3 weeks. The reason was a disagreement over the court's access to the parole board's risk assessments. The board's report concerns the risk the brothers would pose to the public if they were released. California's Attorney General opposes new sentencing or a new trial for the brothers. An attorney for the family wants him removed from the case.
This particular DA has decided that he's got some other interest to vindicate that has nothing to do with the victims. Why at the last minute he does a Hail Mary filing of a motion to continue and does not notify any of the victims or the victim's lawyer? Why? What is going on? Whose interest is he vindicating?
With respect to defense attorney, there's an old adage. If you don't have the facts, pound the law. And if you don't have the law, pound the facts. And if you don't have the law or the facts, pound the prosecutor. And that's exactly what the defense strategy has been. Because we don't fear the facts, all the facts that are favorable to a Menendez resentencing, the facts that are not favorable to a Menendez resentencing. Bring on the facts.
The brothers claim that they were sexually abused by their father and they killed their parents in self-defense. But a lot of that evidence was never heard by the jury because it was barred by the trial judge. The US and European officials try to find common ground on a potential ceasefire in Ukraine. In a moment, a high-profile meeting in Paris as the White House waits for word from Moscow about a ceasefire. Also ahead, Google faces another huge loss in court. How the latest ruling could change the way Google does business.
What do you do when your tires are low and you've got someplace to go? What if the solution was right in your pocket? Introducing Pocket Air Pro by Bullseye, the compact compressor that goes anywhere to fill it up with air. equipped with a 3,000 milliamp rechargeable lithium-ion battery. That's enough power to take this car tire from flat to fill, and the whole family's bike tires in no time. It puts the power of a full-size air compressor in your pocket. Low pressure warning? Fill it up with Pocket Air. Motorcycle tire flat? Pocket Air Pro can fill that. Take it with you to class to fill it up fast. Whether inflating basketballs or soccer balls, Pocket Air can do it all. Featuring an advanced smart pressure sensor, it automatically stops when your set tire pressure is reached. Simply set it and let it inflate, completely hands-free. Pocket Air Pro is lightweight, durable, and is powerful enough to lift all that weight. Even a trailer loaded with thousands of pounds of equipment is no match for Pocket Air Pro. Pocket Air is powerful enough to inflate this giant truck. With an ultra-bright LED light and a large display screen, it's safe to use even at night. And with 4 custom air nozzles on board, it's perfect for pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Gas station air out of order? Fill it up anytime, anywhere with Pocket Air. Call or go online now and get the complete Pocket Air Pro system for just $59.99. It comes with the carry case, car charger, and a 90-day money-back guarantee. And for a limited time, we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. You get it all at incredible value. Remember, when your air is low, you need Bullseye Pocket Air Pro. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-347-6174. That's 1-800-347-6174. Or go online to mypocketair.com. That's 1-800-347-6174. Or go to mypocketair.com.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
Join me, Larry McDowell, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talents, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers.
Meet 2 film titans, John Carney and Daudi Anguka, as they redefine African storytelling on and off the screen.
When you fuse anything with culture, it brings originality.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
I'm Christy Lou Stout in Hong Kong, and this is CNN.
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure, if you can run with the bulls and not be afraid of the bears, for when we come together, we will make sense of it all. And what is more, my friend, you will be profitable, for you are indeed watching the West means business.
The end is on your phone. Let us do some window shopping, yes?
Get your cameras ready.
Wow. Every single species play a very important role in the whole ecosystem. Why wouldn't we want our children to fall in love with nature?
We don't have much years to make a difference.
Don't give up. Let's do it. You can make it for the people, health and soul.
We've heard all the pundits, seen all the hot takes, and read all the headlines. But what's it like to hear from the people actually living the news? I'm Audie Cornish, longtime journalist, and my CNN podcast will break down trending stories, the debates rocking our culture, and talk to the people living the headlines. I've got a lot of questions.
The Assignment with Audie Cornish. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You break the rules too many times, they break you one time. With no need to do it again.
A deal on rare minerals between the US and Ukraine is now a little closer, with the signing of a memorandum of intent on Thursday. US President Donald Trump believes the deal could be signed as early as next week. The president says he's expecting to hear from the Kremlin this week about a 30-day ceasefire with Ukraine. The Kremlin has made a laundry list of conditions before any ceasefire can go into effect, leading to accusations that Russia is dragging its heels on any agreement, while Ukraine accepted the ceasefire proposal weeks ago. And US and European officials held high-level talks in Paris Thursday, which French officials described as excellent. Here's CNN's Nick Robertson.
So these were important meetings, big meetings, because it was the first time since February senior US officials, senior European officials, leaders even, had met to discuss the ceasefire arrangements that the United States has been calling for, President Trump has been calling for since February. Of course, Ukraine has already signed up a long time ago now, it feels, to this unconditional ceasefire. The pressure has been on President Putin, and it was the U.S. envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's been meeting face-to-face with President Putin, and the sense has been in Europe that Witkoff is being spun and played by Putin, that Putin isn't serious about getting into a ceasefire right now. So Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, meeting with Emmanuel Macron, the French president, the French foreign minister. That was the first sort of big meeting, a lunch, a working lunch for the day. But then there were lots of other meetings. Rubio, Witkoff meeting with European counterparts, British, French, German foreign ministers. Also, those countries had their national security advisors or equivalents in the room. And as well at these meetings, you had the Ukrainian defense minister and the Ukrainian foreign minister. So a lot of conversations, not a lot of detail coming out, but a French official has described the meetings in this way, saying they were very strong strategic opportunity, and actually goes on in quite effusive language to say this. It was an excellent exchange, a high-quality exchange, a substantive exchange that allowed us to converge on the essential goals, which for us is a solid peace for Ukraine, which means a solid peace for Ukraine and for the Europeans. So the French playing this as a meeting that was successful, but we don't know who convinced that Emmanuel Macron is someone who knows President Putin very well, and he may well sat there and have listened to explaining the conversations he's had with President Putin, but Emmanuel Macron is the sort of leader who would want to give his input that changes the
Classy. All right, I'm going to bed because I'm tired and I have to go to work tomorrow. Uh, y'all have a good night, though. See y'all tomorrow.